Imagine living in a world with no electricity, no running water, and none of the conveniences we take for granted today. A world where 90% of the population lives under the harsh realities of farming, enduring exhausting labor from dawn till dusk, with meals consisting mostly of dark bread and vegetables. But is that all there is to their lives? Definitely not. Medieval peasants had secrets that have never been told before, and surprises in how they overcame hardships and found joy in what seemed like hopeless circumstances. Join us as we explore a day in their life and prepare to completely change the way you view the lives of those who appeared to live only in hardship. What would a day look like in the life of a medieval peasant? Let's take a closer look at their world, where survival was a constant battle against nature. But it wasn't all doom and gloom. The reality of their lives was far more complex than the simple images we often imagine. In medieval England, approximately 90 to 95% of the population were peasants, living in small villages scattered across the countryside. Now, these weren't just any peasants. There were different kinds of peasants, each with their own roles and rights in society. Some were bound by the feudal system, serving lords who controlled the land, while others had more freedom, living as free men or women. But no matter their status, they all shared the same underlying struggle: survival. A medieval peasant wasn't simply someone who toiled in the fields. They were also part of a complex, tightly knit community. Their lives revolved around working the land, but it wasn't just about the crops. They tended to livestock, helped build homes, and in some cases, specialized in crafts like blacksmithing or brewing. But here's a twist. The difference between a poor peasant and a free peasant wasn't always as clear-cut as we think. While it's easy to assume that all peasants were trapped in poverty, some were able to make a decent living, gaining a bit more autonomy than we give them credit for. The homes they lived in were small, often made of wattle and daub, and shared with their animals. Privacy was scarce, with everyone sleeping in the same room, but there was something undeniably communal about this life. Neighbors were everything, and when disaster struck, like a bad harvest or an unexpected storm, their ability to lean on each other could mean the difference between surviving and succumbing to the elements. But here's where it gets interesting. While most of us think of medieval peasants as nothing more than faceless laborers, there were moments in between all the toil when they experienced something deeply human: joy, laughter, and even love. And as we delve deeper, we'll uncover how these hidden moments of happiness, social bonds, and community life were just as essential to their survival as any grain harvested from the soil. A medieval peasant's day began very early, as soon as the sun rose. Imagine in summer they woke up at 4 a.m., when the first light of dawn began to shine. There was no electricity, no alarm clocks, only the sound of birds chirping and the faint light of morning to wake them up. Peasants had no choice but to get to work as soon as daylight appeared, because each day was filled with necessary tasks. Their morning began with simple personal hygiene: washing their faces, brushing their teeth with twigs or natural materials, and possibly saying a prayer, hoping for a productive day ahead. Then they headed outside, ready to tackle the tasks in the fields as soon as the sun was up. These tasks never ended, because the seasons dictated the work. In spring, the main tasks were plowing the fields and preparing the land for planting. By summer, it was time to weed, water the crops, and protect them from pests. And come autumn, when the crops were ripe, they raced against time and weather to harvest, working late into the night. Though the work was exhausting, it was precisely this close connection to the land that defined their lives. Every piece of land, every plow, and every hoe carried with it the hope of a successful harvest that could sustain them through the long winter. And here's the twist. Their life was not just about hard labor. Each task, each season was tied to a deep hope, a belief in survival. They worked not because they had to, but because they knew that a poor harvest could lead to famine and despair. They had to be ready for every challenge, because in the feudal system, there was no room for laziness. Throughout the day, peasants had little time to rest. From dawn till dusk, they were either working in the fields or tending to livestock in their barns. By lunchtime, they typically ate a simple meal of bread, vegetables, and sometimes cheese or salted pork if they were lucky. Their workday extended well into the evening when the sun set and they finally returned home, tired but sometimes satisfied with the day's accomplishments. However, despite working all day, these peasants were not just living to work. Even in the midst of hard labor, they found moments of humanity, joy, laughter, and even love. As we go deeper, we'll uncover how these hidden moments of happiness, social bonds, and community life were just as essential to their survival as the crops they grew or the harvests they gathered. The life of a medieval peasant could not be imagined without the simple yet essential meals that provided the energy needed to survive long hours of hard work. While they didn't enjoy luxurious meals like royal feasts, their food was always enough to sustain them through their grueling daily tasks in the fields. Dark bread, porridge, and vegetables were the main staples of their diet. Dark bread was the primary food source. It was made from barley, rye, and other locally grown grains, often dense and heavy, unlike the light loaves of bread we typically find today. Peasants would eat about 1 to 2 kilograms of bread every day, roughly the equivalent of a whole loaf. The bread might sometimes be accompanied by a bit of cheese or salted pork on special occasions, but meat was a rare luxury. Porridge made from grains like barley or oats was another common food, as it was easy to make, filling, and inexpensive. It was usually cooked with water or milk, sometimes mixed with vegetables like onions, garlic, or turnips. These meals were not just food, but an essential part of the peasant's life, providing the nutrition and energy they needed to continue working long hours in the fields. A major challenge that peasants faced was food scarcity during bad harvests. Years of poor crops could leave them facing famine. During hot summer months or harsh winters, food supplies might dwindle, forcing them to survive on alternatives such as tree bark or even boiling leather. One particular period called the Hungry Gap, which occurred in late winter and early spring, was especially difficult when stored food was running low and new crops hadn't yet come in. However, when harvests were good, peasants could enjoy more substantial meals. They might have salted pork, dried fish, or even fresh meat during festivals or special occasions. But for most peasants, the regular diet consisted mainly of starches from bread and porridge, supplemented with whatever vegetables they could grow. These meals, though humble, provided just enough calories for them to keep going through their physically demanding lives. And despite the hardships, food was central to their survival, not just as sustenance, but as a symbol of hope and resilience in a world where even a small bad harvest could mean starvation. The homes of medieval peasants were simple and humble. Most of them had only 1 or 2 rooms, enough to accommodate the entire family along with livestock. These homes were usually built from wood, clay, and straw, materials easily found in nature. For a peasant, the home wasn't a place for relaxation or entertainment. It was a shelter, a place to seek warmth and protection from the harsh elements of nature. Living space was extremely important for peasants. These modest homes, though lacking in luxury, were very cozy in winter when the entire family and livestock shared the same small space to conserve heat. The lack of privacy was noticeable, as all family members, from grandparents to children, slept in the same room. Household tasks were primarily handled by women. They not only took care of the family, but also managed various chores, such as fetching water, cooking, caring for the garden, and other manual tasks. Women in medieval times had little time for rest. They were constantly busy from morning till night, but their work was crucial in maintaining the household's survival. A typical day for a woman in a peasant family could start very early. After waking up, they would go to fetch water from a nearby well or river, a task that required significant time and effort. Next, they would prepare breakfast for the family, which usually consisted of porridge, dark bread, or other simple dishes. Throughout the day, they were continuously engaged in tasks, whether caring for the children, tending to livestock, or managing the garden and crops. In winter, when the cold weather set in, the house became even more crowded, and everyone, including the animals, sought warmth together. Family members and livestock sharing the same space was not just for warmth, but also to protect the animals from the bitter cold. Despite the material poverty, these cold winter days were when family bonds grew stronger and more supportive. Moreover, household tasks like weaving, dyeing fabric, sewing, or making candles were essential to family life. Women would spend time weaving cloth from wool or flax, making clothes and other necessary items for the family. Their work, though labor-intensive, was essential to keep the family clothed and prepared for the seasons. But even though the life of a peasant's family was full of work and hardships, they still found ways to create moments of relaxation and joy. For it was in these small moments, amidst the struggles, that they found happiness, connection, and love. The evenings spent gathered by the fire, telling stories and sharing dreams, were precious moments they could cherish in their daily lives. The life of a medieval peasant was not only confined to hard labor in the fields. Although most of their time was spent working tirelessly to sustain their lives, they also had moments of relaxation, fun, and connection with their community. In feudal society, rest days were not always easy to come by, but when they did, they became incredibly important for their mental well-being. Religious festivals, saints' days, and special occasions were times when peasants could relax after long hours of hard work. These days were often filled with community activities such as dancing, singing, and folk games. These gatherings were not only religious in nature, but also an opportunity for everyone in the village to come together, socialize, and share their life stories. During these festivals, peasants could engage in physical games such as tossing discs, playing football, which was nothing like the modern game, but more of a spontaneous match with large-scale participation from the village, or other folk activities. These events not only allowed peasants to unwind, but also strengthened the social bonds within the community. One of the most cherished activities was storytelling, where people would gather around the fire, sharing tales about heroes, saints, and sometimes mysterious or mythical stories. These stories were not just entertainment. They were a way for peasants to pass down cultural values and important lessons to future generations. These evenings spent around the fire were precious moments for families and communities to connect and share. Despite their hard lives, medieval peasants found ways to enjoy life, even amidst the struggles. It was during these moments of relaxation that they built lasting relationships, which helped them overcome the challenges and harshness of daily life. These occasions were also an opportunity for them to escape from worries about crops, harvests, and daily chores, providing an important part of their social lives. And although these festivals and recreational activities couldn't last forever, they were crucial in helping peasants maintain their spirits, endure hardships, and keep hope alive. The strong community bonds in these moments of entertainment were essential elements in their survival, allowing them to make it through bad harvests and face the trials of nature. The life of medieval peasants was not always just about hardship and scarcity. Although they faced extreme difficulties, they still found ways to survive, connect with each other, and create moments of joy in the most challenging conditions. Community and solidarity were the key to overcoming every obstacle they faced. So what was their secret strength? How did they survive through bad harvests? And why did they still find joy in a world that seemed filled with nothing but hardship? If you're curious about the fascinating stories still hidden in the lives of medieval peasants, don't forget to join the discussion and share your thoughts. If you found this video interesting, be sure to hit the subscribe button, like, and share with your friends. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos where we'll continue to explore the mysteries of the past.